Hey guys, I'm Marcus Antebi.
And I'm Jared Mccann.
Now this is our second taping with each other on a show that we don't have a name for. We don't have a format. We don't know
what we're saying.
We're just two people, I think, that have a lot to say about something. We have nothing to say about
tired. You know what? I got to tell you, I'm tired of saying stuff. I am talking all day long, all night. I mean, that's basically my job, teaching yoga. People just want to listen to me talk.
Well, you do a good job.
Thanks.
I've taken yoga everywhere. And there's a lot of great yoga teachers out there that teach a great class. But there's very few yogis that I know that teach a great class, have a great approach to mindfulness during a yoga class, and can execute, I would probably say, a majority of the postures with a sort of precision that is really at a very high level. I mean, you know that.
Yes.
You know, I guess when you get that good at it, you actually just go, yeah, I've seen what it looks like in photos. I'm pretty good at this.
Well, I got broken. You know, I got trained and broken by a yoga teacher.
Who?
Mary Jarvis.
Where is she at?
Who's that exactly? Nobody knows who Mary Jarvis is.
Where is she?
She's in San Francisco, and she was one of Bikram's students.
Wow.
Back in the 80s.
So she was a Bikram teacher mostly?
She is only a Bikram teacher.
How long did you practice Bikram religiously?
So 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Maybe
religiously,
religiously. Yeah. 10 years of religious Bikram yoga, and now I don't do it anymore.
Okay, so I was looking at my phone because I have a lot of notes on Bikram, so I think this could be a great episode on
a Bikram episode.
A Bikram episode, I think.
Okay.
Or let's see if there's just topics within the yoga that come up.
You know, I think most people don't even know that Bikram actually is a person. They think Bikram yoga is a yoga style that represents hot yoga, but they don't understand that he's actually he's a real life.
He's a guy.
Indian man.
Now, I came up with something.
Running from the law.
I came up with something that I thought was funny. You can decide with me if it's funny. Do you remember the clay animation shows that were called Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yes.
Where they're
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was sitting in a yoga class and I was trying to really concentrate on the posture, and I got really distracted by
your thoughts.
By a clay animation. I want to do a clay animation celebrity death match between Wim Hof and Bikram. Two totally different elements. One's hot, one's cold. And I pictured the opening sequence, Bikram trying to run Wim Hof over with one of his Rolls Royces.
Oh, Bikram will get him.
Yeah, but Wim Hof has to live. He has to be the winner of the event. So Bikram, there'll be a scene where Bikram's got him in like a headlock and he's like fondling his rear end. Is this funny? Should I continue on with this, or should I just let it go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I write a lot of stuff about what I've learned in Bikram. I've been practicing Bikram pretty regularly for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And I would say that you'd be really proud of me.
I am proud of you.
If you see me practice.
I haven't seen... Well, last time I saw you practice was when we were in Antigua together.
Right. Well, okay, so we weren't in the hot room.
No.
So the way I am in the hot room is I have taught myself the discipline of following direction. If the teacher doesn't say it, I don't do it. It's Simon says to me.
Same. Yeah.
And I get frustrated with certain teachers that don't give the direction at the right time.
Yeah.
Like they get caught up in something.
Timing is everything.
It's everything.
Timing is everything.
And for people that don't take Bikram and have no idea what we're talking about, one of the things about Bikram that works really well is the idea that there's so much instruction going on and it's so exact that what it could force you to do when you become aware of that exactness is it could force you to really stay present. It makes it very hard for your mind to drift off into other thoughts.
Absolutely. It's training wheels for meditation,
right,
Bikram yoga.
Exactly. It is. And it's also advanced.
Yes.
So it's not.
Well, it's really hard. Yoga class is very difficult.
It is difficult. It is and it's different every time. And so I started when I write about Bikram, the practice. The first thing I see about it is that it's it's really a unique experience for each user, because I think that certain people could find it to be very uncompassionate. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Uncompassionate?
Not. I don't know.
Is that a word, Brian?
Uncompassionate.
Sorry, we'll look that up. Okay, it's not. Sir, I could see how people could find, when someone says lock your knees and they're pushing you to go to your limit, I can see how some people might find that to be a very ungentle yoga.
Exactly. But you know what actually I think is even more uncompassionate is not telling students what to do in a clear and direct, straightforward and demanding way. That's actually how people really get hurt.
And also they don't get the benefit of the practice.
And they don't hear it. You know, when you are direct and clear, you know, in my yoga teacher training, we call it operational commands. It's like how you would ask someone to do something. Hand me that cup. Say what you want to say. Contract your kneecap.
Well, what you're saying for the non-yoga teacher, I understand as a student, which is this, very simple. Some teachers, the way they teach is they just give an instruction. They'll say, let's say you're in downward dog. Then they'll say, okay, now walk forward, your feet forward till they meet your hands. What they don't do is they don't call the posture. So the person who's new to that class, who might know the postures, is
then it
guessing.
Becomes a game of Simon Says.
Right,
Step your foot here, move your hand there, look over this way, turn to the left, look to the right.
And that could be very distracting, because what happens is you start to get into thinking about what's going to be said next, as opposed to having some idea and being able to improve the posture and to stay in the meditation of what do I have to do to bang out this pose. That's a single-minded focus. It prepares you for the ability to push out extraneous, unnecessary, unhelpful thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. Bikram is great for that. It's great. I mean, Mary used to always say I got to tell the Mary story at some point in this episode.
I want you to. I just want to make sure that that we go through whoever would be listening to this, because we can put in the tags like Marcus and Jared talking about Bikram.
Yeah.
So Bikram people would look at it. So I just want to make sure that we explain what it is. We didn't do that.
Mary used to always say...
Tell us what Bikram yoga is.
Raja yoga.
Yes.
Yoga of the mind.
Sure.
Because there's no better yoga that helps to focus your awareness and create that feeling of meditation than Bikram yoga. One, you're looking at the mirror, you're looking in your own eyes,
right?
You're playing eye gazing with yourself for 90 minutes, which is a whole trip on its own. Two, it's so hot that if you start to think about something, you will go into full-blown panic attack mode.
You lose the pose.
You lose it all.
You lose the pose. Now you can have muscle memory carry you through.
Yes.
And that's okay if you're happy with staying where you're at in a particular posture.
Yes.
But if you're actually trying really hard and you're in standing head to knee and you're thinking about something that your wife said, you're going to wobble.
Absolutely.
And, I think that we're still talking about it in a very advanced way. Bikram yoga is a system that focuses on the same exact 26 poses with 2 breathing exercises, one in the beginning and one at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The system is structured the way that you would picture boot camp being structured, where what Bikram intended was that the dialogue, or the monologue, so to speak, that the teacher is using is pretty much always the same monologue. It sounds a certain way, and
they have to memorize the monologue.
They have to memorize
the training.
The monologue.
You memorize the monologue, and then you go out and say they don't call it the monologue; they call it the dialogue.
The dialogue, even though it's a one-way. You could say that the people in the room are giving a feedback, but it's one person talking.
It's one person talking.
It's a monologue. It's a monologue.
Yeah,
the room is 105 degrees,
but in New York it's often 113.
Right, and there's a humidity that's specific, and there's a mirror in front of you, and so in this particular practice, if you're a beginner, what's interesting to watch for the beginner is the drama of setting up your mat and being stacked around a lot of people, and the sweat and the bottle of water that's next to you, and you're all facing a mirror, and the drama for a lot of people, because I talk to a lot of people that do Bikram, is the first thing they see in the mirror is they just see their self-loathing. Most people hate their body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that becomes an obsession and a distraction. And so the growth, in my opinion, is when a person can stop judging.
Yes.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that the mirror is a great teacher because it's reality. Without the mirror, you might think you're doing something
that you're
just
not
like I
actually
remember
doing.
from skydiving, and you're actually not doing that thing.
Yeah.
So there's the mirror is an important teacher. The other thing that's an important teacher in that room is the bottle of water that's in front of you. Because to me, the bottle of water represents all my earthly desires and cravings.
Absolutely.
And
are you going to take the bait?
Am I going to take the bait?
Or are you going to rest in yourself?
And am I going to be like, you know what? I don't need water here right now. I'm plenty hydrated. I'm designed to sweat.
But it's like, am I going to eat the chocolate cake?
Right.
Or am I going to, have that drink tonight?
Then the biggest thing that you watch when you start to get more advanced in Bikram is not the actual posture. It's how you get out of the posture and what you do in between.
It's the transitional moments.
The transitional moments. And that's
when you know it's a good practitioner, when they are clean in, clean out, and
at
clean
the mirror,
in between.
I focus. I don't blink my eyes. I don't move. I don't wipe my eyes. Now, why is this stuff important? Is because it's not just because they're metaphors. Like fidgeting in between a posture really is kind of a metaphor, how we hesitate and delay and make excuses to do things in our lives.
Absolutely.
It seems like we're always fidgeting between one thing and another. And it's hard to really pinpoint where fidgeting comes into place in generalize. It's different for everyone. But what I've learned in the Bikram yoga is that the posture is what I'm there to concentrate on, and then stop and just be.
Mm-hmm.
And don't move. Concentrate, focus. And then what's the next posture I'm moving into? And the fidgeting, a lot of teachers give you they don't call you out as much. Like you'll see.
I was so evil.
Yeah, like
I would not let anybody move.
Like when you see someone take some, you'll watch the habits of people, like where after a posture they have to wipe their brow or they have to fix their shorts.
Yeah, or they have to look down and then look up and then look.
What that really is just the inability to focus and concentrate through a difficult moment.
Yes.
And what you learn slowly is that moment's not that difficult.
Yes.
And so I think these are things that do, like you said, set you up for true meditation.
Yes. And I think one of the most difficult things about being mindful in your life is the transitional moments. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to work, which for me, that's teaching a yoga class. So I'm going to be really focused while I'm teaching that yoga class for 2 hours. And then after the yoga class, you feel like, I did it. Good for me. Whoop-de-doo. I'm going to go skippity-doo-dah day and smoke a cigarette. Or, I mean, I'm obviously never going to smoke a cigarette, but, just do something, be out of my mind a little bit.
Something ticky. Like a tick.
A tick. I'm going to pick my fingernails.
It didn't really serve anything.
Yeah. And those ticks, we use those ticks as rewards.
And distractions.
And then it's like, okay, then I do this other thing. Now I'm doing the radio show with you, and then I'll quit the radio show and go back to my ticks, which really at this point, they're not even physical ticks for me. It's just whatever thoughts I'm obsessing about that I'm not doing while I'm interactive and focused and doing my job with you or teaching yoga or even meeting a friend for lunch or something like that. It's those in-between moments where you really have to observe.
And just be mindful. The people in the beginning stages were not aware. See, the thing is, in that heat, for some people, they have to conserve every bit of energy.
Absolutely.
And you learn very quickly a certain mindset drains you of energy. And all the ticks, they actually add up in 90 minutes. They add up to a lot of extra movement. And that extra movement, when you're really sliding in at the limit of your physical ability, they pull you down for nothing. So
those ticks drag you down.
Right.
And what's happening in most people's life is their thoughts are actually the thing that is dragging them down.
Big tick.
Because thoughts are not free. Thoughts cost you energy. Each thought you have, it costs.
Well, we'll say that the energy and the judgment of the thought is the cost. The thought itself is vapor. It's actually neutral until your consciousness observes it and then makes a judgment about it.
Thoughts, I'm going to totally disagree
I like
with you,
this.
Marcus.
Here we go. I'm the antagonist. Let's hear this.
I believe there are no neutral thoughts.
Explain.
I think every thought that you have costs something, which is okay. We have to think. Sometimes you have to add up some math when you do your taxes or plan what you're going to say on your talk show or whatever. You know, there's a time to think, or just to even communicate with someone in a positive and interactive light, you know, and I think that's okay. But they do cost. Thoughts, every single thought that you have.
I don't think we're saying the same thing.
Costs energy.
And
distracts you from the present moment.
Hell yeah.
Which is still.
That's a big thing. I'm saying that I've given this some thought and I drew a conclusion for 2019. It may be different in 2020.
Yeah, and what's your conclusion?
That I'm starting to see in my own visions what I'm made of. I don't believe in a soul. I believe in the soul is a mistaken word for the consciousness, which is really the same thing. I believe that they're the same energy.
Yeah.
There's a body, and there's a memory recorder called the ego. And that the thoughts, actually, they don't belong to me. They actually rise from an aggregate of situations like what my ego thinks, what my consciousness is doing, what my body's experiencing, and what the collective is streaming, and the frequencies that I'm pulling in and drawing in around me. The thought just pops up. I didn't even ask it to be there. Then what happens is Marcus looks at the thought, and instead of being neutral and observing it, I own it, I attach myself to it, and then I place a judgment on it, and that's where the energy suck comes from. So in other words, if I have like today, I was walking up on 83rd Street and 3rd Avenue.
Yeah.
And it was 12 o'clock, and I had finished all my tasks.
Mm-hmm.
I had a huge window of time, and then I started to just have negative thoughts saying, I'm not doing enough right now in my life.
Mm.
And I took a moment and I stopped. I said, come on, man, you're 50. You've been in this exact position 10,000 times.
Which is young,
but old enough to know better, which is I've been in this spot 1,000 times in my life. I have full control over where this goes next. So I looked at that thought. I said, hey, thanks for coming. I said, but I have something else to think about right now. And I distracted myself with something that's more useful to me. And I didn't waste energy on that thought process. And I didn't attach myself. I didn't sit there and go, where did it come from? Is there something wrong with me? Should I hold on to this? Should I talk about it?
You let it go right away.
I just let it go.
I think that's the way to handle it.
And I don't think there was any energy drain on it.
I think the energy drain.
We're just never going to agree.
You and I are never going to agree. We know this.
Maybe we'll get close.
I think we're, it's like we're hitting the same thing from different angles.
It's a nuance.
Yes.
You're probably right. I'm probably wrong. How's that? You can't argue with that.
I like that. That
wait,
makes
I like this.
me happy. Good night. Bye. I can leave now.
Yeah.
I'm probably right. I think that thoughts do cost energy, every single one. And I do believe that we are, I don't subscribe to this belief that thoughts are like the weather or whatever, that they're just passing through. I do think don't react to them when they come up, but I do believe that we are creating every single thought from a very deep place within our consciousness or our psyche. And I think, part of the work of yoga is to like get back to that deep place where the thought creation is coming from, so that you are really can put out the exact thought that you want. Does that make sense?
You know what? While you were saying that, I realized that, wow, both things can be right at the same time, because we're two different people, and these concepts could never overlap and be wrong. Or, I'm sorry, let me say that in a different way. They're not, there isn't a right or wrong. It's really just a philosophy. It's like two people arguing over which God is real.
Yes.
I could say, well, look, in my story, the way that I'm structuring my whole world, the way I say it is that the ego, when this guy perishes, it's gone forever. The only way that it lives on is in some of the things that I do. For example, if I slap you in the face and then I die, one could say that my ego lives on as long as there's pain in your face. But essentially, my ego dies with me. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
My body changes. I go back into the earth, and there's nothing. It can't ever be destroyed. Whatever I'm made of, it just turns into something else. So then, actually, my body, it too, as the form you're seeing it in, it's gone forever as well. That was my phone. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
That's a rookie move. Then there's just one little part left, which is the biggest mystery of all things in the world, is what is consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I took my training wheels off about 2 years ago. I stopped reading material and getting my head filled with ideas. I said, I'm going to figure out this mystery on my own. I'm going to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I came up with was, I do not believe that in meditation it is useful for me to be awake in meditation with zero thoughts. I'm about as useful as a lump of coal. I believe that there should be one singular thought. Pick it. I'll follow your lead. It could be follow the breath, meditation on compassion, joining with divine, but to actually achieve in a waking state, complete mindless nothing. I'm blank.
Yeah.
I believe it's a myth, number one. You can't ever prove that someone actually made it there. Like, I'll believe you if you told me that in a waking, seated lotus, you weren't asleep and you weren't on LSD, that you had no thought.
I only did LSD once, and I won't ever do it again. I mean, it was fine.
No thought. Did you ever have zero thought?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I would say, what's the point?
That space.
What's the point?
Because in that thoughtlessness is a peace that is...
How could you describe it?
You can't even describe it.
How can you describe it if there wasn't any thought about it?
You just can't help but feel so happy.
Happy is a place. I'm sorry, it's a thought.
But it's beyond happy. It's not happy like, ooh, I got a new puppy, I'm happy.
I know what you're talking. It's the thing that all the masters talk about, that if you can explain what it is, then it isn't that thing.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is really a nuance again, that there has to be something there. Even the absence of thought, like you're in this high conscious. Someone's observing something, or you'd be unconscious. You're in a coma.
Or I mean, that's what samadhi is in yoga, where you're really still, and then basically time and space disappear for however long you're in that.
And I think it was explained incorrectly. I think it sets the wrong goals for the new disciple. People get frustrated too easily. Thank you. Keep it on. It's good. It's a nice tone. What I saw for myself was that the idea in meditation is to get to a place where you now have control over the radio station that's normally playing in your head.
Yeah.
With 700 channels tuned in, it's pure noise. You're able to turn everything off and be in one space, which is you're allowing a vibration that's generally floating over your head at all times. Like every opportunity the Beatles had to write music, all that creativity, it's there for us all the time.
Absolutely.
We just have to reach up and make ourselves able to grab it and pull it in. So it's channeling. And in that, it's an egoless place where you realize the ego actually is just sitting at the table and just kind of going, oh, that's cool. I might use that later. Or maybe how would that look on like, does that help my abs? Yeah, I get it. The ego is just looking for nonsense, but it's in control of the ego. It's not, it's being held at bay, in other words. It's in check. It's exactly where the ego should be in our existence, not non-existent and not in control over the vehicle. Like, the ego is a great backseat driver, should never have the wheel of the vehicle of life.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to crash every time. So I just think that meditation really is a channeling into the vibration of divine creation and figuring out what the hell's going on. And then when you come back, you can't act like an absolute person. Like, I know what God is. Everybody come here and listen. People do that. That's the nature of the gurus that I meet. They all have a story that's, here's how it's happening. Santa Claus comes, he comes down the chimney, he puts toys underneath the tree.
Well, I think when you have had intense spiritual experiences, you do feel this fire to share that.
To be recognized?
No.
To do good for the sake of good?
No, it's not. It's not about doing good. It's not about recognition. It's just like, you just want everyone to feel that, because it's amazing, and there's no words to say what that is.
It's healing.
No, there's no healing there.
Well,
there's
on one level there is. The beginning level. Because that's what people are looking to do ultimately at the start of the journey, is to be able to surrender. There's a healing that takes place. And I think I figured out what the healing is for me. It's got nothing to do with mommy and daddy, although that was a small part of the distraction. Ultimately, in my meditation, what brought me great strength is the recognition that the healing is from the sickness of not being present in the moment and having grace.
Absolutely.
So when you actually hit that moment and you're actually in it, where you're like, oh my God, I see the beauty of creation. I'm here. The first thing is it's laughter, because you know that you're not going to come back and explain it to people. They'll think that you're a Jesus freak.
And how can you explain it?
Poetry, artwork.
Yeah, that's all you got.
Or sometimes you just really get good with words. You get a person. I find that if I'm talking to somebody who's new in 12-step recovery, they have such an open mind because they want to get better. You give them tiny details. I wrote down something yesterday that I was writing. It made me well up with tears. I was by myself, and I was listening to, my thing right now is I listen to a lot of piano music because it's just helping me keep a certain, like...
What were you listening to?
Well, the two best for me are Chopin and Debussy, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm branching out.
So romantic.
Franz Liszt. There's a few things that, I don't want to be a snob.
Got some good ones.
Beethoven, if you like the classics, Beethoven and Mozart, they were more like secretaries. They played the piano like they were typing.
Yeah.
But once in a while they hit something in there that's like, the complexity of the music is what blows my mind. How a human being not only figured that out, but communicated it to other people.
They communicated something very deep emotionally, musically. Ooh. I would cry all the time when I was learning new songs on the piano growing up. Especially with Chopin, learning a new Chopin song, I would always just tear up because it was so
It's insane. I have something
beautiful.
To show you that makes music, the piano music, incredibly visual, where you can actually look at it and you can see that there's a sequence in there that reminds me of how genetic material creates life.
It's called
double
DMT.
helix.
What's that?
I said it's called DMT.
Not quite. Yes. I think you should switch to like Chopin. Just switch to piano.
We should
Chopin.
Definitely do a DMT segment.
No, I can't. I can't go unnatural on you. You could do DMT. I'll walk you through.
I have DMT.
He's just carrying it with him.
What, in your pocket?
I mean, not here, but I own some.
That's pretty cool.
So, what do you think of all this? How's my development coming along, teacher?
Very good, Master Marcus.
No.
Very good.
I have 6,000 pages of writing. I even have a writing about when you when are you allowed to call yourself a master. And then after you
This
call
is one of the first Chopin songs I played. I played this song when I was 12.
It was Opus 28?
No, it's the third Nocturne.
You know who plays this the best?
Who?
Lang Lang. Is that how you say his name, or is it Yang Yang? Do you know who he is?
Isn't he the cellist?
No, there's a guy, Lang, Lang. I think
Lang Lang? He's a pianist?
He's insane. I mean, he plays everything. I mean, first of all, there's another guy on YouTube that just shows you the hardest piano pieces to play, and then you can like study 10 guys playing it, like what their style brings to the picture.
You know who else is a classical pianist? Is that girl Mackenzie who practices with me, who's got the sickest practice ever.
Yes.
She's a classical pianist too, and she loves Chopin. She's playing the ballades right now. She told me.
Well, we talked about opening a yoga studio with you with a white Steinway in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
And you taught at the piano.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be pretty ridiculous, but it'd be pretty amazing. $100 a class.
Well, let me tell this Mary story.
Okay,
wait,
please.
We're out of time.
No,
we're
time
not. For the Mary story.
We're at 32 minutes. We're good.
We are? Okay. I thought we had till 5:45. So, Mary Jarvis, when I won the national yoga competition back in 2011, I think, I got an email from Mary, and she said, I want you to come see me. And she set this up with Greg, who owned Yoga to the People. And so Greg flew me out there, and I stayed with Mary for a week. And I had to be at class at 7 to do Bikram yoga from 7 to 8:30. And then from 8:30 to 4:30, I got obliterated. I had to do 30 wall walks. Well, twice. Okay, so it was 60. But in the beginning, 30 wall walks, 30 bow poses, 30 standing bows, 30 handstand scorpions, 30 full camels, 30 one-hand peacocks. Then another Bikram class, then all over again. That's what changed my practice forever. Just a week of doing way more than I thought was ever humanly possible, with Mary sitting on the floor doing her Facebook while I was crying. I actually cried throughout the whole experience. It was 4 days of crying, and then actually on the 5th day I was out of tears. On the 5th day, something in my mind just broke, and I just did it. And actually I enjoyed it. But I continued that homework for a month. I did what she taught me to do for a whole month, and then after that, my practice was forever.
That broke your mind.
Yeah, that broke my mind.
Bikram broke my mind. I've been taking you taught me how to take Bikram, and then Bikram taught me how to teach myself how to take yoga.
Cool.
And then and now.
Cool.
When I come back into a regular yoga class, it's
I got to
hard.
do Bikram with you.
It's fun. When we talk about yoga to people, we can accomplish a lot in a 1-hour class that's a little loosely structured, where the postures are the same and the teachers are all brand new. I actually like distraction now in a class, because it just proves my practice to myself more, that I go into a class.
That you don't care.
I don't care, or I can focus in on, there's somebody next to me who's annoying, and I concentrate on compassion. I just
or
put
the
that word in
teacher
the
is
mouth.
annoying, and
Yes, it's a decision you make where you want to go in your head.
Absolutely.
You can resent that person and say, this isn't the class I wanted. It's not what I came here for. Or you can get inside that person's life and say, okay, I'm here with you now.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say healing. To be able to have the ability to shift
forgiveness.
But everything. It's just being able to shift perspective where it's needed, so to make sure that the stuff that fills my head from moment to moment is useful, it's happy, it's positive. Obviously, if I'm going through a tragedy, I'm not going to be in denial.
Yeah.
It's whatever's really appropriate for the moment.
Yes.
And in general, if I'm in a yoga class, I'm in a really fortunate place in life.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to take it for granted and think about my griefs and my mistakes and my misfortune. No, I'm in a yoga class right now. This is a blessing beyond blessings that I can perform this, that I can do this.
That you have the time to do it.
And in the case of someone who's actually above average, be excited that there's a moment to let the ego have a moment. Say, look, you're doing great here. Look at this.
Yeah.
This is what you like, So I wanted to find this thing that I wrote. I guess I'll have to look for it when we're driving back to Brooklyn together. I want to get a ride with you.
Okay.
Because I want to read it to you. I was reading yesterday by listening to there's a guy named Tomita. Isio Tomita. He was from the 1970s. He's one of the inventors of synthesizers.
Uh-huh.
And he has a record from like deep 70s now, maybe 80, where he's playing the classics on all these incredible synthesizers that are huge because there was no microcomputers.
They had to
back
be
then.
huge because computers were huge.
And he plays Debussy and he plays Chopin. And
I think I've heard this.
There's when you listen to it in headphones, he really actually he triggers things in me. To this day, I feel it in my whole body, and I can't help it just to feel. I didn't know what it was before. What it is just ecstasy. And so I wrote yesterday, I said, heaven is a decision you make. It's not a place you're going. I always
say that.
It's a choice that you're making.
Heaven is just a decision.
It's a decision. And it's real because if you're the type, here's an example. Let's say you were deaf your whole life and you had a surgery and someone played this music. You'd be in paradise. So why not teach yourself to find that same thing without having to go through deafness first?
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
It's not easy. I mean, I noticed that even, I hate New York, I hate New York, I hate New York. And then I come back from Italy and I get off a 9-hour plane ride and I love New York because I just got off a 9-hour flight. But that I feel like is my work. Can I just stay in love with New York or whatever? I mean, New York is empty as all things are, but can I stay in love with all things?
Well, I could say this to you because you're a great yoga guy. New York is just a painting.
Yeah.
You've painted it with your eyes.
Yes.
And it's whatever you want to see in the painting. Today you can decide to look at the blue hues or the really structured lines if you want. And again, look at the miracle of your vision to be able to distinguish shapes. You can go into that and say, that's my meditation, is to concentrate on the miracle of sight.
Yes.
And if you don't have sight, then focus in on your hearing. If you don't have hearing, focus in on touch. If you don't have touch, focus in on the miracle of taste. But there's always a way, even for a person who has no senses, probably has it a little easier actually.
They're in a natural state of meditation.
Find the absolute
no distractions
beauty in consciousness. Just the miracle of consciousness from moment to moment. Very hard to keep that state of mind. We lose it. And I'm very angry at a lot of the teachers out there. That's why I was showing you those book titles. I said I have a book called Meditations of an Angry Yogi.
Part 1, 2,
Part 1 and 2 and 3. And it's really just me talking about how the most important thing that I can do if I wake up and I think I'm a teacher is remind my students that I'm going to change my mind tomorrow. Whatever I am saying is absolute today, it might be gone tomorrow. It might be vapor. And I am mostly teaching myself all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can learn something from me, that's great. And what I've learned is there's not enough time on this earth for me to actually know something.
And what is there to know?
You can know a little bit about yourself. A little bit.
I don't think so.
A little bit. Just a tiny.
I don't think so.
You don't think there's anything?
No.
Well, shit. You got to give the people something to hang on to.
Yeah.
I think that...
Well, that's what people want, something to hang on to.
You have to give... Listen, I went through a whole thing with this young guy who was newly sober. I said,
yeah.
Do you want to die? And he said, sometimes. I said, let's go through that all the way. And then we came out at the end. He decided he wanted to live. I said, okay, there's no black and white. Now that you want to live, you definitely want to be more comfortable.
Yeah.
And when you start with that, you already are starting with a slightly broken philosophy that's filled with judgment, because you're distinguishing comfort from uncomfort, or, but you kind of have to do that in the body. And your ego has preferences. So let's make it simple and say, you know what? 20% of my effort should be to give the ego its due credit. If you don't give yourself a little bit, it'll rebound in a terrible way. It'll actually snap back, and you'll actually spend most of your life in ego. Like it's like fasting for too long and then just relapsing on cake and cookies.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, make yourself comfortable. Get yourself whatever you want, whatever clothes you want to wear, whatever apartment you want to live in, whatever, husband, wife, you want kids, get them, get the job you want.
For a reason. Create the purpose. Not just a mindless effort.
Well, I think the reason is put yourself in a place where you feel good so that you can really do what you're here to do.
Yeah. I'm saying it's a purpose. What your purpose can change from day to day. It can change every year. When you say, I can say that my purpose is to develop myself where I can become a person that does good things for the sake of good, not just for the sake of myself.
Well, I think you want a win-win with that. I think it's good to do things that are good for you and good for others.
Yes.
Get the win-win, because I think that can backfire too when you're just doing things for other people. I mean, that happens to me all the time. I'm always doing things for other people.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that that's coming from the place of doing good for the sake of good. I think you still would probably say that you get something from being that do-gooder or that provider. I'm not saying that's accurate. I would just look at that.
Maybe. I mean, I think I just have grown up that way. I was just always that person that people relied on for, support.
So are you here on your own free will right now, or are you just trying to please me?
I'm here on my own free will.
Okay, good. That's important to me.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to spend time with you too.
I want to develop this concept, because I think we could have a lot of fun if we had a variety of guests. I think knowing you, how you are in your life, we can be extremely outrageous, or we can be extremely conservative.
Yeah, I go all directions.
Yeah,
you too.
My direction, right? My thing right now is I am trying to break free of the spell of lots of unnecessary teachings that I carry with me. I don't want to be attached to the teachings, because they hold me back. Because there's always something there in that meditation that was taught to me that interferes with me seeing it from the angle that this karmic thing could see it from. And when I write about this stuff, I'm trying to make sure that what's everlasting about my teaching is it's not attached to me. It's not, that guy Marcus said that. Because first of all, I don't think I'm very sellable in the first place. That's like number one,
See, I didn't have that. I didn't have so many teachings. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Dharma, and I love what I got from him. But I think, my teachings really are just my time that I spent with, or the time that I do spend with my grandmother. That's like my big, I don't know, what I always fall back on.
But you're very gifted. I know, I can recognize that I'm gifted too. There's a gift that's slightly born from madness. It's when it happens from severe abuse and trouble. It's almost like a panic button is pushed, and it amplifies personality traits.
Yes,
more so than if things were even.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always have to be that way, but I would say is one of your things for sure is that you're a perfectionist.
Yes.
And like myself, that could be a block for you, because you like myself, you might not absorb something until you've turned it over 45 million times and you have a perfect understanding.
I have to
destroy it.
Yeah.
Which means ultimately, there's the positive side of that is that I think the output, like if you're a piano player or practicing yoga postures, you're going to practice at a very high level.
Yeah. Yeah. The gift of that is now I'm a yoga master.
Right.
Right.
Which means that you're just ready
to
start over.
Yeah.
Because the postures, What will you be in your 80s when you can't do these poses?
Well, I mean, I think why I'm so special is because I can do the poses, but I know so many different other styles of yoga and Kundalini, and I'm
kindergarten.
Well, it's all kindergarten.
It's all going to be
kindergarten.
Until you invent your own system that has a name. It's all kindergarten. It's all someone else's teachings.
Yes.
They fit nicely. God, thank God for these teachings, man. I mean, It's like the same thing as if someone left popcorn for you in the woods to get
But it's true.
Shelter.
It's true. I got to unlearn all the yoga teachings to create my teachings.
Right. So that's part of the healing too.
Yeah.
And you're young. I mean, it's not creating a yoga class is not that hard, especially if you can do the postures.
You know what? Actually, it is.
What part?
To sequence a yoga class, to get a really good sequence.
Yes. Okay. You're saying something that flows well for people that people like a menu in a restaurant.
That people like, that holds up and won't destroy your body over time.
Okay.
And creates a balanced after effect. I think that's one of the most important things about a yoga sequence is
gets
how do
the
you
range of
feel
movement for
after?
the whole. Gets arrangement for the whole movies. Satchidananda has that. Who's the yoga place that I went to? Yogananda.
Where? Yogananda?
No, where's the place in Bahamas? Who is the guru for that place? Anyway, there's a lot of people that have very gentle systems that are really
the one in the
on Paradise
Shivananda.
Shivananda. I think that the part that I'm saying which is hard, is to think completely outside of the box of yoga. The first thing is that let's say I wanted to become a great yoga teacher. The first thing that I would emphasize is taking myself out of the person's practice. I don't want people to use me as a focus like a candle. I think that slows down the performance of the people that I want to teach. I don't necessarily want to teach someone who's never taken yoga. I might be someone that teaches people that are kind of waffling around in the same practice.
You want to start teaching yoga?
I teach yoga every day. I've never taught a posture in my life. I don't see the difference between teaching people how to be good or think about retail or think about a relationship or sobriety. I think it's all from the classic perspective of the yoga word. I think I'm teaching yoga. I would not call myself a yoga teacher because I didn't take a certification course somewhere, but you've seen me practice. I'm above average doing asana.
Yeah.
Above average of a lot of teachers. So if I took a 50-hour course and I have a diploma, now I'm a yoga teacher? I'm a yoga teacher.
Yeah. I guess we all, well, no, not all of us, but you're definitely a yoga teacher.
And the only people I could talk to about this shit is smart yoga teachers because they're practicing this shit. They're actually, it's amazing. For me, I talk to people at Yoga to the People, young people who are learning the practice. They're teaching this stuff already. Something has shifted. They're not learning it from anyone. There's no program there that tells people the thing. Like this guy said yesterday, who could probably just barely do camel.
Yeah.
He said, there's a thing inside of you, it's deep inside of you. And the deeper you go into camel, you're bringing that thing inside of you and you're bringing it out into the material world. It's making you more open. And I was feeling that while he was saying it. I understood exactly what he was saying. And I said, that's an advanced teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, also at the same time, I realized the shame is most people aren't getting what he's saying because they're just concentrating on the posture, whether they can do it, whether it's easy, how hot it is, what am I having for dinner, do my thighs look too chubby, do I like this position on the mat, who's practicing next to me. They're not
present to the experience.
Present to the experience. Amen. Well, listen, we're out of time. It's my fault. This is great.
It's our fault. It's time's fault.
I'm the yogi with low self-esteem.
No, you're not.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Marcus.
This is great.
This has been good.
I think that we need a place where we can practice yoga and Thai boxing while we're doing a podcast.
That would be
some
cool.
Fitness stuff. I think if we had an episode with a guy who's a master of kettlebell training, showing us movements.
That'd be fun.
You know,
we take this thing out on the street.
I want to do a podcast from inside your meditation, so you can show me thoughtless.
Well, you can't. I mean,
I think there's technology now. I think there's an app.
Okay,
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.